Microsoft Windows users were able to download the Outlast Trials, the third installment in the Outlast video game series, on May 18, 2023. This game was released on the platform. At the beginning of the game, players are put in the situation of being kidnapped test subjects who are taking part in an immoral experiment that is being carried out by the Murkoff Corporation during the time of the Cold War. The Outlast Trials is a game that serves as a predecessor to both Outlast and Outlast II. The major purpose of this game is to unearth the actual history that lies behind the tale. The survival horror game, Outlast Trials, is played from the first-person viewpoint throughout the whole game. As you go through the new prequel, you will experience the tale from the point of view of a citizen who has been kidnapped by the Murkoff Corporation. The company in question is the one responsible for reopening the bogus Mount Massive Asylum in order to carry out immoral experiments with the intention of inventing technologies that can be used to brainwash individuals. Experiments are carried out on test subjects under the guise of therapy programs in order to exert control over their minds and compel them to do tasks that are in direct opposition to their intrinsic nature. It is necessary for the players to make use of the resources that they discover in their surroundings in order to survive, since they do not own any weapons by default. In order to take pleasure in the third game, it is not necessary for you to have played the two games that came before it. Players who are interested in collecting further information about the first two games are welcome to make use of the papers that are situated on the ground and are marked Evidence. These papers are available in the area where the players are stationed. The events of the Outlast Trials took place in the 1950s, which happened to be the time period when the Cold War was going on. The United States of America and the Soviet Union were going through a period in history when tensions were rising between them. This era of time also occurred during the Cold War. Furthermore, the Murkoff Corporation itself is the genuine symbol of the relationship between historical events and the mythology, despite the fact that the video game does make references to this throughout its whole. In the United States of America, there is a fictional company known as the Murkoff Corporation that specializes in carrying out experiments that include mind control. For the aim of carrying out research, the company makes use of formerly incarcerated individuals from the made-up Mount Massive Asylum. When the game makes reference to MK Ultra files, precisely at that moment, it starts to convey certain tales that are based on reality. At the beginning of the Cold War, there were rumors floating about that communists had developed a mechanism for mind control. These rumors were spread by many sources. As a result of this, the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, came up with their very own clandestine program, which they referred to as MK Ultra. The purpose of this program was to create a drug that could be used to impose mental control on foes. The project was conceived up and directed by Sidney Gottlieb, a physicist who worked for the Central Intelligence Agency. Gottlieb was also the person who oversaw the operation. His research was carried out at a variety of locations, including correctional institutions and prisons, which were fairly comparable to the environment in which the video game was set. There were a considerable number of these real-life patients that were exposed to psychological maltreatment, which included the use of electric shock, isolation, and high dosages of LSD that were administered. Gottlieb finally came to the idea that there was no realistic means to carry out mind control execution. This insight came about as a result of the fact that he had killed and mentally injured a significant number of volunteers. The Project MK Ultra organization had participation from over 80 different universities. Hospitals, jails, and educational institutes were all elements of these establishments. It was in 1973 that Richard Helms, the director of the Central Intelligence Agency, issued an order to erase all of the material pertaining to MK Ultra. Both the original Outlast and the sequel Outlast II do make reference to this specific facet. At a hearing that took place in 1977, the Select Committee of Intelligence of the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, and the Subcommittee for Health and Human Research were brought before the United States Senate. The hearing was presented to the Senate. According to the findings of the research, the experiments that were carried out by the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, for Project MK Ultra were disturbing. They did not make any sense from a scientific point of view, and they were carried out on human subjects who were unconscious that they were participating. As a response to the terrors that occurred over the course of the project, the United States Senate decided to construct a new legislative. The objective of this new legislature is to keep an eye on and coordinate these committees in order to make certain that anything similar does not occur again in the future. Furthermore, the Senate made an effort to supply the 85 institutions that were hosting the trials with information on the true nature of the research that they were doing. This was done in an effort to enlighten the institutions about the trials. In addition, they came to the conclusion that it was of the utmost importance to make an attempt to provide assistance to any participant who had been negatively affected by the study experiment.